Hello! Today I'm going to show you how you can use the Flowgraph editor to make missions like this. I'll be showing you things how to make an introduction screen like this, use ground markers like you're seeing now, but I'll also cover race markers, or single markers I should say. And I'll just be going through some of the basics of Flowgraph and some of the quirks of it. I'll even show you how you can make dynamic events like this. So let's begin. To start, what we need to do first is quite simply press F11. That opens the world editor. And we're going to then go to Window, and head over to Gameplay, Flowgraph Editor. Now that this is your Flowgraph, it's a little bit confusing because it's a window on top of the world editor and it can be embedded to the side. What I personally like to do is kind of try to get it as full screen as possible, like this when I'm working on it. Okay. Now this is the default dashboard. I would normally tell you to go to the basic examples, but I don't suggest those. They don't seem to work very well. They're not very helpful. And I don't know if it's just me, but in the latest version, scenario examples, I don't think any of them work anymore. They're just empty files. I think there's something got messed up during an update. What I can suggest is, you see here I actually have falloff.flow. If you go to Gameplay Missions West Coast USA and it's in its own Flowgraph folder, that's how you normally know a mission is a fully Flowgraph mission. You can check out in there, that's a pretty detailed Flowgraph mission. East Coast Chase, Gravity Fuel, and Port Escape, they are all Flowgraph missions. The links here don't work, but you can find them, again, going to Gameplay Missions, finding which level they're on, like East Coast Chase is on the East Coast map. Gravity Fuel, I believe, is on Utah. Yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to show you how to make your own Flowgraph mission from start. So let's go to New Project. Okay, you get dropped on this first. What we should do is take a step back and go to states first. Okay? A Flowgraph is built of many states. So I'm going to quickly... And a state is a group of Flowgraph nodes. I will just start working on it, and I think you'll understand as I go through. So I'm going to name this to something better. I want a setup scene. Let's say setup scene. Okay, setup scene. That's where we're going to spawn our cars and all the stuff we need for the mission. I'm going to press Control C and Control V to just duplicate it. And now I'm going to call you restart. You'll always need a restart button because if somebody fails a mission, they'll want to restart. And then we're going to have one more. Control C, Control V. And that's going to be, I'll just call this a game. Sorry, I want a introduction. And then I want a mission. We'll just call this gameplay. Okay. A state can have, it always has one input, which is a flow. A flow in this case is just a 1 or a 0, true or false. That's all it is. A flow doesn't hold data. It's just a true or false when it's a flow. Okay, so success obviously means that there's been no problem. So I'm just going to say success. So when you set up a scene, actually don't go to restart. When you set up a scene, I want you to go to the introduction. And then after the introduction, I want you to go to gameplay. And then on the gameplay, let's say if I fail it, and I could rename this to something else, by the way. You don't have to use success and fail. You can rename anything you want here. You can add more outputs. So let's give it a let's give it a custom one called reset. Custom pin. There we go. If you press reset, you go to here, the reset flow. And then when you do the reset flow is successful, it will go back to the introduction. So I hope you can understand here that we are starting to see a gameplay loop already. But these are just state groups. And we can color these to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. So let's just say a setup, that's kind of like a new, so I'll give it like a baby blue color. And then the introduction, I like to do anything that involves like text or people a little bit pinky. Gameplay is the main thing, so I like to make that, let's make that like a green, like a very bright green. And a reset, let's just make that a boring brown or something. Again, you don't have to do this, but I'm just kind of showing you how I normally work through things and how I make missions. Alright, so first things first, let's do our setup scene. And what I'm going to do first is, I haven't found a good way to like dismiss the Flowgraph editor, so I'm just going to bring it down here. And I'll just tell you my mission I'm going to build. I want to spawn a car here. I haven't decided what car yet. And I want the car to drive along this road here, following waypoints. And they are going to get interrupted by boulders falling off the cliff here. And that'll just be the mission. Just a little quickie. Now, you may be we can. So I'm going to double click into Setup Scene. So this is a single state. I'm inside a state now, okay? This is my setup scene up here. Now, how do you add nodes? There's two ways to do this. You can right-click anywhere, and you'll get this node list here, and this shows all the nodes that are available. This is quite overwhelming, and if you don't know what you're doing, this is probably not very helpful. So what I like to do is go to Windows, inside the Flowgraph editor, and you'll see a node library here. Click on Node Library. Now it's here, and the reason why this is useful is because you can expand all of these, and it will show you all the different states and what the node looks like. And I do recommend just kind of having a look at them, because if you have any like inclining for this, you'll kind of immediately start seeing like, oh, cool, I can record replays, right? Or, oh, cool, I got math functions here and stuff. I want to spawn my car, so let's get my car first. I'm going to just say, is it vehicle? And again, if you're not exactly sure, you can kind of type in the name. So I just have vehicle. I forgot if it's spawn or create vehicle. I want to freeze vehicle as well, not to get ahead of myself. We're going to want that. And we're going to want an enter vehicle as well. There we go, spawn vehicle. Okay, so now if I want to go immediately into spawning a vehicle, I was going to say the vehicle has a default model loaded, but I don't think it does. So if I click on model here, okay, so it's going to by default load the pickup truck. What I did, I clicked on the little circle here, and this basically means if it's a pin, you can enter the data through a pin. If I click on the little circle and they get the lock icon, this is essentially a hard-coded value. So it can be pickup. I could write in anything in here that is a car. And this works for modded cars as well. But I don't know the names of all the cars. So what I could do is I can get here you go, vehicle config provider. I want a vehicle config provider. But before I do that, I'll just show you how it works if I keep everything the same. So I'm going to say pickup, and I'm going to say the config, and it's going to automatically just choose the default config, which is the pickup truck. So to get this to work, I just go to flow, and I put the flow in here, and I could just run the game right now. If you press play, it's just going to play, and you're going to see nothing happen. That's because it's happening in the background. So I can go down here, up, and there's my pickup truck. There it is. If you don't want to constantly move this window, I like to use the use monitor. So now when I press play, take a second to load, there you go, hides the monitor and spawns my pickup truck. But it spawned in a random place. Actually, this is right next to spawn. I know because of that traffic cone is my original vehicle. Because I make a lot of missions with Flowgraph, I don't like spawning into BeamNG with a car because the engine's running and I have to turn off the engine and it takes up CPU cycles. So I've made my default vehicle a cone. But I don't want the pickup truck here. I want it by the bird migration station. So I pressed F11 again, and I'm going to press stop here. So let's go to the vehicle provider, and I'm going to click on this button here on the left-hand side, load models and configs. There we go. Now if I go to type, I have every single type of physics object you can spawn. I can spawn cars, trucks, props, utilities. Unknown, I don't even know what unknown is. Unknown is nothing, okay. So I want a car. Let's do a, well, you know what, I like the Pessima. Let's do a Pessima. And the config, again, you can choose the config here. Let's get something just, I don't know, kind of boring and automatic. There we go, 2-liter automatic. And I have to connect this now to the pins. So I can just grab the model here and create a link. Now what's happened is now this is no longer it's no longer hard coded with pickup. It's now going to take whatever's in here. Same with the config. But I also don't like the position, because if I press play, see, it still spawned it here next to spawn, and it's kind of random. I don't like that. By the way, I can press F11, but when you use the monitor, you get the FG monitor here. If I expand that, this is like a debug thing you get. I can actually press stop here as well. Or if I want to go to Flowgraph, I can actually click here. And this is quite helpful to show you how Flowgraph works. So what happened was, this is when Flowgraph turns on. The flow went straight into setup scene, and then inside of setup scene, it starts here. It's sending a constant flow to spawn vehicle. Spawn vehicle only fires off once, but some nodes will fire off every single clock cycle, every single tick. I'll explain that when we need to. And anyway, I want to move the position. So you can see it comes with a position node, so I could again override it and hard code its position in the world space. But that's a little bit silly, because that's going to need a lot of like fiddling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my node library, and I need a transform. There we go, types transform. Now you can see a transform, it has this little 3D icon here. A transform has a position, rotation, scale. So I'm going to take the position, put it into position, take the rotation, put it into rotation. I don't care about scale, and if you don't care about scale, you can at any time just press the little I here, hide the scale. That's what the little +1 or +9 here is. Those are additional inputs you can put in. I'm not going to talk about any of them right now, but just to give you guys a heads up. Okay, so now how do I move the transform? Again, I could grab its position in world space here, but what I like to do is move it down here a little bit, and oh, there it is. So here you go. So you can see when I click on the transform down here, oh, look at that. There's my transform in the world. So I can move this to wherever I want in the world. So if I want, so I can move him anywhere. It's a bit annoying to like kind of do this all the way to where I need him. So what I like to do, I just like to go to where I want to spawn. So let's just say I want to spawn right here. And I want the car facing this way. I'm going to just kind of look the way I want, and then you can say down here, position to camera, rotation to camera. Okay, now I'm just going to press play and see how that works. And if you don't want to spawn into the game, because I got this, I'm actually going to keep the monitor. I'm going to say don't use monitor. Press play, and I should just see the car spawn in front of me. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's facing the wrong way. Yeah, there's something weird about camera coordinates. So what I can do though is press stop, press on the transform. I'm going to go over here. Press F11 again, find my transform, and I'm just going to manually rotate it to the correct orientation. I'm not exactly sure why it does this. If anyone else knows, I'll be happy to hear that. Okay, I am going to use the monitor, and let's press play. There we go, lovely. Look at that, the car's in the right orientation and ready to drive. Whee! But I need to tell the user I want them to go over to the tunnel down the road here. So I need to put some markers. I'm going to be very nice, and I'll show you both ways how you could achieve this. And my plan is to come here and rocks will fall down. That's my plan anyway. So let's stop the project. I'm kind of done with the setup scene. I could also set up, it's up to you where you want to set up the your markers. I like to do that in the gameplay because, and the reason why is because you do the setup scene first, then you do the introduction, and then you do gameplay. And I don't want all that stuff loaded during the introduction. I don't want to see that in the introduction phase. So let's just say this is done for now. I am going to have to spawn more stuff later. But now that I'm done, I need to exit this setup scene state. So how do I exit a state? You have to do a transition. Okay? There you go. Now remember you saw the word success earlier? There it is again. So I'm going to say when you've done the spawn vehicle. I can actually say when it's loaded even, which might be better. Oh, yeah, I should do that. And by the way, a flow out here, this flow is constant. Okay, this will always flow out. Even if the vehicle hasn't spawned yet, this will keep flowing out. Loaded, on the other hand, this, and if you hover over it, should tell you, yeah, this will only trigger once after the vehicle is loaded. So I kind of want to do that. Okay. So when you transition, go to success. And then when it goes to success, there you go, success goes into introduction. Now, introduction has nothing, so let's go into introduction. And at this point, I'm going to quickly press Control S. Please save a lot. Oh, Control S doesn't work for me because I haven't saved this once. So I'm going to go File, Save, just say Save, I guess. Oh, no, I have to save as because I don't have one. Save as. Oh, very annoying. Can you see the file dialog? It likes to hide. Oops. The file dialog likes to hide. It likes to hide behind the Flowgraph for some reason. And where do you want to save it? So traditionally, I copy what the BeamNG devs do. Is I save it in gameplay, missions, and then find the map I'm on. I'm on Small Island. Small Island doesn't have any Flowgraph missions by default, so I'm going to add my own. So I'm going to say add a folder. You don't have to do this. I think you can technically store anywhere you want as long as it's inside BeamNG, Flowgraph. But I like to copy, you know, the way BeamNG does it, because I don't know if it would cause issues on the mod repo later. I don't know. File name, I'm going to call this tutorial. Save. There we go. Okay, now it's saved. I know it's saved because there's no little white bumps there. If I move this at all, there you see that little white bump? That little white blip, that means, oh, this isn't saved. If I press Control S, it goes away. Do save, you do get issues, but BeamNG, it does actually have an auto-save feature, so you go to File, you can say Restore, and you can see there, this is when it was unnamed, and now it's in tutorial flow, and it gives you the timestamp, which is quite nice. So, for my introduction, what do I want? Well, in BeamNG, normally you get a little intro screen, so that is called a start screen, I believe. So I'm going to tell them start screen. There we go. And so when you enter the state, oh, just the flow, I'm going to flow into there. And the layout, these are, I'll let you discover them yourself. Portrait's the most common. And I want the title saying get to the cave or whatever. And the text, by the way, I hard code this, but if you wanted to change it outside of the file later, or want to make this more modular, you can get a string node and write it in there. So by default, it has hello world. I'm gonna overwrite that to be please get to the for the earthquake or something like that. You can be more, and that goes under text. Okay. So then what happens? So the start screen automatically will not continue the flow until you press start, and I can show you that quickly. Let's make another transition. Success, there we go. So if I press play, there we go, my car's in the right place, and there we go, get to the cave, please get to the cave before the earthquake. And if I press start, it will transition into the next phase. It brings my UI back up, and then I can drive. That's great. That's all I'm going to do for now. Alright, so let's go to gameplay. Now, this is where I want to show the way paths to the cave or to the tunnel. So, there's two ways to do this. I'll show you the old way. I'll show you, like, yeah, there's what I consider a bit more of a complicated way, but gives you more control. So that way is I will need transforms again. And I'm going to need a few. So I'm just going to say Control-C, Control-V, Control-C, Control-V, like that. And I'm going to need single markers. There we go, single marker. And I'm going to only have one for now. And let's move my first transform. So again, I'm just going to press, I'm going to lower my screen here. The transform's right there. I want the first one to be quite close to where the player starts. Kind of where they can see it so they know where to go. And I'm going to position it here to camera. So I'm just going to say position to camera. I don't think you need to care about rotation because markers always orientate themselves towards the player. And let's grab the second marker. And I'm going to just make it a little bit further down the road here. So it's a bit annoying to move when you're in this view. I'm going to move it to about here. Again, position to camera. And then the last one, which I want kind of close to the cave. Let's put it about here, let's just say. Of course, you could do more, so I'm going to click on the third transform. Position to camera. Boom. Okay, now what I want is the single marker. I want its position to be the first one. I don't really care about the radius right now. And I'm going to go to marker type here. So I have overhead, ring marker. I'll let you guys play with these yourselves. I kind of like the overhead one a lot. Side markers are also, or side column markers are quite common. I'm going to use, actually, you know what? I'll use one of each. So the overhead for this one, Control-C, Control-V. This one I will make a side mark, a side column marker, because I actually forgot what the difference is. Control-C, Control-V. And then this one can be a side marker. So again, I just need to wire up the positions. Position to you, position to you. And then what I want is for the flow, I want the flow to go into you, and then you go into you, and then you go into you. Okay. And then I'm going to press play. Okay, so you see I don't see anything right now. I just see my car. Press start. Oh, there's the marker. Look at that. And you'll notice I did have like the option to do color stuff. So that's an overhead marker. Go through that one. There's the side marker. They're all white right now. And that's a side column marker. Okay, that's weird. It's like a bit of both. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So that's I would consider this a more involved way of doing things. And there you can see again the flow going through 1, 2, 3. I'll show you the other way to do this first. So if I don't want to use this, I don't have to delete this. I'm just going to delete the first flow. Now this code will never get fired. So if I press play quickly, and just say start, you'll see I can't see any of the markers. The markers have all gone. Just press stop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the other way to do this. And I think this is a bit more of a nicer, a bit more, you know, it's up to you how you want to do things. So I'm going to go to path, and this is called, I believe, not a decal path, a ground markers. That's it. So let's bring in ground markers. Ground markers are pretty cool. And I'm actually going to take the position of the last one that was kind of near the cave. And I'm going to say flow, go into here. Target is going to be the position here. Boom. That's all it is. And that's all it is, ground markers. So what the ground, and I'll just play, and I think it's easier for you to see that. Say start. Oh, look at that. You've probably seen this in, I think that the career mode has this and stuff. But yep, there we go. It just automatically lays out. It essentially finds the closest road and puts everything down for you. And this automatically actually has an end marker as well, which is quite nice. And it'll stop at the end, which is where I put my last marker. That's pretty good. So, let's do the last thing I wanted, where I wanted a whole bunch of rocks to fall at the end. Right, so, okay, so what are rocks in BeamNG? Rocks are technically a vehicle, and what I mean by that is it's a physics object. So I can go to the setup scene, and using the same code I had for my vehicle provider, I'm going to do the same to load in all these rocks. So I'm going to do press delete on you. And I'm going to need this freeze vehicle thing here. So I'm going to Control C, Control V the vehicle provider. And the spawn vehicle, Control C, Control V. And I'm going to need a position, Control C, Control V. Let's set up my position first. So I got my transform selected. Let's go into the world. I'm going to position myself kind of up here. My idea was the rocks would be like here. Kind of like this. Yeah, around by here. I think they'll just naturally fall, look pretty good. Position the camera. I do not care about the rotation because they're just rocks. And then the vehicle provider, I'm going to say load models and configs. Rocks, I guess, would be a prop. It would be a prop, sorry. And I just got to find rocks down here. Or boulders. Oh, are they called rocks or rocks and boulders? There we go. And there's obviously a whole bunch of them. I would like the rock stack, position here, model, config. Now I'm going to turn off the use monitor, position my camera here, and if I press play, I should see a bunch of rocks spawn there. And by the way, I actually forgot to flow connect to here. Whoops. Okay, I'm just going to do that first. Let's see if that works. Again, I'm going to try and position my... got to detach my camera. I'm going to try and position myself here, and hopefully I'm not going to get snapped away. Although I might be snapped into the rocks now that I think about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to also go to the rocks here. Replace player. No, I don't want the rocks to replace the player either. So I'm just going to press play here, and hopefully I can see the rocks just spawn. Okay, it moved my camera, but the rocks did spawn. They kind of spawned into the rock, so I need to... So there's obviously like a problem there, so I'm going to have to... Yeah, they spawned into the cave, so give me a sec. Let's just fix that. Let's just stop that, go to the transform. Let's bring it quite far out. Let's try that again. Okay. And to make things easier on myself, let's actually set up a little debug camera. So to do that, I'm going to go to my node library, which should be here, sorry. There we go, on my node library here. What I want is I want a set camera. There we go, set camera position. So I'm going to force the camera to look where I want it to. So after you've spawned the vehicle, I'm going to set the camera position to this value, and that value is going to be, and that position is going to be a new position that I set. Can I actually override this? Oh, here we go. There's a set from camera option here, so I'm just going to quickly move my camera to where I want it. I want it about here, so I'm just going to say set from camera. Boom. And I'll probably have to do the rotation as well. This is something that's quite... it's nice about the Flowgraph editor, but it does require you to kind of do everything. It is really like programming this yourself, because again, I have to do, I have to do everything. So there you go, set camera position, set camera rotation. Let's see if this works. I'm just going to press, and I can actually now use the monitor. So you'll notice that the rocks do spawn, but they're on the ground. So what I got to do is, what I'm going to do first, well, first things first, I've noticed that some of the rocks didn't get cleaned up. This just happens sometimes. If you notice that, you can just go to spawn vehicles, find it, delete it. So when you, well, again, I'll just play the game, show you what happens. The rocks spawn, but they just spawn on the ground. That's not good. That's because when you spawn a vehicle in BeamNG, it automatically tries to pin it to the road and in the right direction. What you can do is you can use the move vehicle to. So when the vehicle is loaded, in this case the rocks, I want it to move the rocks to the position we defined. And how does the move vehicle know which vehicle to move? It doesn't get the ID through the loaded. Remember, this flow is just a 1 or a 0, true or false, on or off. You need to pass in the vehicle ID. Now when I press play, there you go, the rocks spawn. But there's a problem. They already fell. I want to do that right in front of the player. So, little quirk with BeamNG. You can't freeze rocks exactly, but there is a solution. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to actually and I'm going to have another transform. I'm going to initially spawn the rock somewhere different. So I'm just going to quickly say Control C, Control V. This is the first rock spawn, and I want them to be kind of here, kind of out of sight from the player. Doesn't really matter where, as long as the player can't see it. Let's spawn it here again. Position to camera, and then I'm going to move you to there. And what I'm going to do is we are going to do this move vehicle to late. We're going to do this move vehicle later when we're ready for that effect to happen. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, Control C or Control X to cut. Go to gameplay, and I'm going to put this in gameplay. Okay. So what I want to happen now is, and we'll keep the ground marker system. So what I want to happen is, when the player reaches the end of the ground markers, or to this position, and I'll just, to this position here, I want to move the vehicle, in this case the rocks, to here. So I'm going to need two things. I'm going to need a trigger, so I'm going to get a trigger first. Trigger, custom trigger. And the position of the trigger is going to be there. And I don't think you need to worry about the vehicle ID, because by default the vehicle ID will be the player ID. So anyway, the idea is that, okay, ground markers flow into here, and then once, and then when you've entered here, I want to do that move vehicle to function. Now you might notice a little problem here. I want to move the rocks, but I don't have a vehicle ID. But how can I reference the rocks? Because I'm inside of gameplay, but I need to be inside of scene setup to get the rocks. Well, what you can do is, on the transition, you can add a pin to the transitions. Add pin. And this pin is going to be called Rocks ID. And I want Rocks ID to be a number. I'm also going to remove this set camera position stuff for now. I'm going to move it, actually. I don't need it. Yeah, actually, I'll move it here for now. I'll use it later. So now, when I load the rocks in, I pass in the rocks ID, and when the rocks have loaded, the setup scene is done. Let's press play and see if this works. There we go. I'm still the player car. Press start. Okay. Alright, well, something obviously got lost in translation. Let's give it a sec. I know what happened. I didn't give the move vehicle to the vehicle ID. Again, if you don't give anything a vehicle ID, it will assume the player. So what happened was, the player got moved to the rocks. So what I need to do is I need to get that rocks ID in here. So remember, setup scene, I made a transition variable called rocks ID. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to gameplay, and then I'm going to get transition variables. This doesn't need a flow to go into it to work. And then you can see here from template, click on the template. Rocks ID is there. Click on Rocks ID. There we go. Put it into vehicle ID. Now this should work. This custom trigger is here. It's quite small, I've realized. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it bigger. I could give this transform a much bigger scale and inherit the scale, or I could just override the scale here and give this like a number, but I like to do it like this. So you're a box, yep. So let's just make you, let's inherit the scale, and let's give this a bigger scale. So I'm going to click on the scale button here, click on the transform, click on scale. Let's make it take up the road, I guess. Make it take up the whole road. There we go. And I'm going to move it a little bit closer to the rocks as well. Okay, let's see if that works. Yes, the old spawn place. Start. Ooh, I don't see any rocks yet. I'm going to slow down a bit. Oh, and there the rock spawned. Check that out. Boom. There you go. And the rock spawned. Now, of course, I could work a little bit with timing and stuff, and I could put another car there. It could land on a car. Oh, it happened again. Oh, that's interesting, because I reversed out into the same trigger. So if you remember, the trigger was kind of here, right? The ground marker automatically clears itself when you get to the end, but the trigger doesn't. So the trigger I can use as many times as I want, I believe. Yep, there we go. There it is again. Yeah, and now I can quickly talk about ending a mission and maybe the restart feature. So I'll quickly try to get into that. Now, let's consider when you get to the end, let's consider that like a success or a win, okay? So, so let's make a new state for when you win the game, okay? Let's make a new state. Again, I can copy and paste an old one, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to copy all the code. So you can go to the node library and you'll just have new state here. Bit annoying, I have to click on this, sorry. Win. Okay, so when you succeed, you go to the win. The win, then you can go inside of win. Sorry. And then I want a, what's it? Oh, end screen, that's it, end screen. There we go, end screen. So again, the flow, as soon as you go into it, I want to show the end screen. And it can be you are WinRAR. I'm not going to talk about progress and stuff. That'll be another tutorial, I think, 'cause that's going to get quite involved. I do want to include a retry button. And you can include a scenario button. That will just show all scenarios. And I don't care about all these strings, to be honest with you, all these points. I'll show that in a different video. But I think that's good enough already. So if I just say a medal, again, you can put logic to decide what kind of medal you get. But because my mission didn't have any like, lose or win states, I'm just saying you get a gold medal. All right. And you enter that state. What I want to happen is in gameplay, after the rocks crash, I want to show it. Now, you can imagine that if I immediately make it go to success here, you're not going to see the rocks fall because the rocks take a few seconds to fall. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a wait here. There we go. So the flow goes into here. And the duration, I'm going to hard code it to about 3-4 seconds. Let's say 4 seconds. And when it's done, impulse, I want to fire it here. I don't want to say flow because flow will fire even if you haven't waited. The flow goes immediately through. It flows right through. The impulse fires when it's finished. Unfortunately, the custom flow here, again, fires off immediately with or without a trigger. So what I need to do, I need to create a one-way state. So basically, I need this flow to stop and only turn on if you've entered. Just talking about the word flow, I kind of forgot. Is it a flow switch? Yeah, let's use a flow switch for now. There might be a better way to do this. This is how I do it. So, okay, so by default, I want it off. So right now it's off. On, off, okay? So, again, remember, with a custom trigger, the flow is constantly going. But now, it's not going to go here because it's off. If I turn it on, the flow will go on. If I turn it off, the flow will turn off. So, to turn it on, I'm going to say when you enter, it turns on. Turn it off, it's off by default. But I'm going to say when you enter the scene, it's off. When you enter the state, it's off. That's going to help me later when it comes to restarting the mission. I'm actually still going to use the move vehicle to enter, just because the move vehicle to, I think it happens every single frame. So if I make it on the flow, it won't move because every frame it will move the rocks to that point. I just want it to move once. So I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to get rid of the flow here and put this flow here. There we go. Now, I'm pretty confident this should work. Oh, and you can't hear the car. That's normal. I turn off sounds again when I'm working in BeamNG because I don't like to listen to all the ambient noise. And again, if I have a car running in the background or anything, it's just easier. I kind of forgot there's no... So again, I'm going to hit the trigger, rocks. Success! There we go. You are WinRAR. If you're interested to see how you can do stats, showing stats and a score, I'll be more than happy to do that. Now, retry here will probably do nothing. Yeah, it just kind of closes it. That didn't retry my mission. So, to do a restart, now you'll notice here that you'll notice I didn't put anything in the restart yet. So, the restart essentially is like a setup scene again because I want to move everything back to these positions. But I don't want to spawn everything again on a restart because I've already spawned it once. I don't need to respawn the vehicle. Even if I crashed... Oh, actually, I'll show you that in a second. So what I'm going to do is in my transition states, I'm going to get a few other things I need to reset. So what do I need to reset? I need to reset the player. So I'm going to get the player ID. Done. Again, I want that to be a number. But I also want the player's position. I'll call it the spawn position to be exact. And I want that to be a vec3. That means vector 3. And I would like another one, and I want the rocks position. I think that's everything I need to restart. Okay, so now I need to make sure that I feed all these in. So I'm going to quickly say, this is my player vehicle. Oh, and I should mention that. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing here, right? Like what belongs to what. You can put comments in at any time you want. So I'm going to say comment. And here you go. And then I'm going to just position a comment around all my... This is for the player stuff. Yeah, again, very janky. I'm going to... There you go. Set it there. There you go. Oh, you have to put it here, do you? Okay. Spawn player. Yeah, it's very confusing because you can name the node and then it has a title over. It's very confusing. But anyway, spawn player. And I can do another one here for, you know, spawn rocks. There we go. Again, this is a bit more helpful. And anyway, so I'm going to pass the vehicle ID in. I'm going to pass the rocks position into rocks pos, and I'm going to position the player spawn into player. Okay, that's everything. Now, to use this for the restart, let's go to restart. Okay, so when you enter the first thing I need those information. So I'm going to get transition variables. Now again, from template, I kind of want everything. So I'm going to get the player ID. I'm going to get the player's position. I'm going to get the rocks ID. I'm going to get the rocks position. And what I just need a move vehicle to again. And I need 2 of these. So I'm going to move the player first. And I'm going to make the flow come from here. And I want the player position to be that. Probably wants the player's rotation. I realize I should probably get the player's rotation as well. So I'm going to go to setup scene. And I'm going to add one more transition called add pin. I'm going to call this player rot for rotation. Oops, I don't want the backslash. That is actually going to be a quart. That means a quaternion. I'm going to grab that from here. Boom. Player, put it into there. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to grab that from here. Player rot. Boom. Player rotation goes in there. And then when that's done, I want to... Oh, and sorry. And then I want to move the rocks. So rocks ID, rocks pos. I don't care about rotation for rocks. I don't care because they're just rocks. And when that's done, I'm just going to transition out. That's done. Now, something you might notice is, something you might think about is, I'm just moving the player. But what if I smash up his car? Will it be smashed? Well, no, because by default, if I show the repair vehicle and show it, it will actually repair the vehicle. And safe teleport was what I was talking about earlier. That's saying, oh, it will make sure the player is safely spawned. Just in case, like, you know, because I could move that. That was what was happening to the rocks earlier, if you remember. The rocks were going on the road. That's because they had safe teleport on. Same with the rocks. I don't really care about repairing rocks. I'm going to say yes. But I actually don't want the safe teleport for rocks because I don't really care about them again. Okay. So let's go through my scene quickly. So now, remember, the restart goes into introduction only. And I want to restart the start screen when I enter the state, I think. I'm not exactly sure if I need to do that, but I'm going to do that anyway. I like to restart. I like to reset nodes with the enter state. I've just found it gets rid of weird problems. And again, all these vehicles should have already been moved by then. I think it's going to work. So what I'm going to do, type in reset. It's kind of weird. So you know I have this on update state, right? That's basically saying I'm inside this state. I'm always going to fire because I'm the update. But the state also has additional these red header ones. It actually has a controls reset. This is like a listener that will always listen for the reset command. So I actually don't need, it's a bit confusing. I don't actually need to connect it to here. Maybe I do need to feed this a flow. That probably is the problem. I don't think I'm feeding this a flow. I need to feed this flow. The controls reset, I think, wasn't listening because I wasn't in the flow. Let's try this again. Again, I could move this spawn to somewhere closer. That's something I do a lot when I'm debugging. Is because my missions can be quite long, so I like to put like I like to make little debug areas where I spawn the car to. Let's go in here. Great. Nice hit. Alright, fingers crossed, reset. I should move the car. Yay! I moved the car. I'm in the right place. I got the spawn screen back up. Sorry, the start screen back up. And I'm going to move. Okay, the ground markers didn't show up again. The ground markers cleared themselves. That was the problem I have. What I would do is inside the reset, I would re-instantiate those ground markers. Up there we go. Everything else works fine though. Everything else works fine. The windscreen didn't come back though, which is strange because the rocks did respawn and they did trigger in the right place. What I would do for that is, inside the windscreen, enter state, reset it. I believe these screens only fire once, and when they're done, they're gone. If you want to restart it, what I'm saying is when I enter the wind state, reset this UI. And for the ground markers, to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally just copy paste you and put you in the reset. So you've got to move the vehicles, you've got to do all that. And before I do that, I also want to reset the I'll add it to my list. Okay, there we go. Oh, you know what? Quickly, let's just because it's annoying to do this. Let's just move the start state a little bit closer. And what's nice is because I took the start state here and I moved it, it's in the transition already. I can just move this and it should automatically update everywhere. So there you go. I got this selected. Let's move to about here. Just make things a little bit faster. Move to camera position. I'm not going to bother with the rotation to camera. It might be in the wrong rotation. I don't care. It's in the wrong way. Start. There we go. Let's do it reverse. You know what? Let's style. Let's do it. Let's get some style points. So you can see the ground markers here, which are nice. The rock spawned. I should get my success. Retry. I'm back there. And the ground marker's back. There you go. So that's a fully clean reset flow. So now people can retry as many times as they want. And in a different video, I'll show you how to do like lose states. So you can track time, damage. And of course, I made a win screen. It would be very easy for you to go and make a lose screen. So you could just make a new state for losing. And instead of showing the end, it can still show the end screen UI. Instead, you would just make the failed here a checkbox, and you can make it failed instead. So, actually, I'll do that now. So, you saw us saying success. I made this a fail. Let's just play. Again, I'm reversed. Get my style points in. Oh. And hopefully it should say failed. Even though it's still success, right? It just missed the... That should be it. When you yeah, there you go. It says failed now. It says so you are a winner. You'd give it different text. If you've lost, it would be a different node in the node graph. There we go. There we go. I'm going to stop this. And that's it. I'll make another video if people like this and I get enough like comments saying, hey, I want to see more. I can do another video where I show a bit more of an end-to-end process. The reason why I like why I'm using Flowgraph is that I'm making stuntman style missions using Flowgraph. It's really detailed. Some other stuff that I'm not going to touch on now, but you might have noticed when I did my custom trigger, I had James custom trigger. So I actually wrote custom Lua to make my own node. Because you can do that. You can actually, if you know how to write Lua, you can make your own nodes. So this is James's custom trigger. This is essentially combining the single marker and a custom trigger. And you can see I made a custom flow called a block flow. The reason why I did that was so we don't have to do this flow switch here. We don't have to do that flow switch. I took a flow switch, a custom trigger, and a single marker, and I combined them all into one. Again, if you like it and you want to see how that is, please just leave a comment on the video and just say, hey, look, I like it. I want to learn how to make custom nodes. If you don't want to make a custom node, but you do want custom Lua, there is custom Lua scripts. Again, I'd assume you know a bit about Lua. Just to give you an example of one I made one that took in a color. It colors a TS static object. So what it does is you give it the object ID. So it says, so I made a local variable ID defined, self.pin_in equals whatever you want. That's how you get the pin in, and that's how you'd also do a pin out. And then I just say, okay, we'll look in the scene tree for that object ID, and then give it a static color, an instance color. Of course, you can do anything you want. I'm not that good with Lua. You can do a lot with this. That's just something I've done in the past. I actually end up making this its own node. But again, I think this video's gone on long enough. It's probably very rambly, and I don't even know if I'll ever edit it and put it out. So, if not, this has been a very riveting conversation with myself.